Hi everyone, it's Brenna. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about my eating disorder. It is not initially what I wanted to have today's video be about. I wanted to discuss my gut health and how I've been healing that and my journey along with that. But I ran out of space to write an outline for my video in my other notebook. So I just grabbed this one, which I know has a lot of space in it. I used it for yoga school and a good portion of it is unused. And every single entry in here was from when I was in yoga school, except for the very last one. And it was written sometime in 2018 last year, because my last entry in here was from January 2018. And it's not dated, but it says eating disorder. Eating enough food, working out because it feels good, coming from a place of love instead of a place of hate and fear. What feels good to my body? Enough nourishment, food, exercising because it feels good to my body. I love my body. I wouldn't want any other body in the whole world. I want to take care of it in the way it takes care of me. I want it to last me a long time. So I'm going to take this as a sign that I should talk about my eating disorder. It's something that I've been wanting to talk about, and I was thinking about having it be the video for today, but this was just a sign from the universe. Start here. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is how did my eating disorder develop in the first place? I think it developed because I am second generation Lebanese. My grandpa came over from Lebanon. My mom is half Lebanese. She's first generation Lebanese, born here in America. And I think that as a culture, they like to stay really thin. They're pretty small people. My mom weighed 102 pounds after having 5 kids. How she did that, I don't know. Actually, I think she also had an eating disorder. I never really saw her eating growing up. My dad was an alcoholic. I never really saw him eat. My grandpa, my mom's dad, was very critical of our bodies. Anytime any of us came over to grandpa's house, if we gained a few pounds, we definitely heard about it. I remember when I was in high school, my grandpa definitely was like, oh my God, you've gained weight, blah, blah. And I felt super shameful and I felt embarrassed. And that was something that I think fueled me along with developing an eating disorder. Also, in the early 2000s, when I was a preteen and when I was a teenager, there were so many magazines out there that were completely photoshopped, and we didn't have YouTube exploiting how inauthentic those women actually were on those videos, or on those magazine covers. And back then it was cool to have thigh gap and everything. Now I think when I'm at the grocery store and I see magazines, I definitely see a lot more muscular women. I see a lot curvier women, and I'm really glad that we've made that shift over the last 20 to 15 years. But I didn't have that when I was young. And how eating disorders develop, usually when there is a very chaotic household and the living environment is really unstable for children, they tend to develop these tics or habits or things that they can control within their own world. This can be OCD, this can be pulling your hair out, or it can be an eating disorder, bulimia, anorexia, whatever. You feel unstable, so you want to control something. So an eating disorder is just a way of controlling your food and your body in an uncontrollable environment, which I think added to me having the eating disorder as well. It probably started when I was about 14 years old. I remember starting to pay attention to how many calories were in things and trying to intentionally eat less than 1,000 calories a day. On top of being in dance team, I would also run every day after school just to make sure that I kept thin. I since then kept up with that habit of eating less than 1,000 calories a day and over exercising. I kind of went through anorexic phases and binging phases. My binging phases where I would just kind of lose control for a while. I'd go drink a lot, I'd go out to eat a lot, and slowly the weight would gain on, and then I'd like take a look in the mirror one day and be like, oh my God, I hate my body, I'm so fat, and then revert back to the limiting my calories and exercising all of the time. The height of my anorexia slash bulimia, if you count like over exercising, was when I was 28 years old. I was living with my fiance at the time. He had what I think you would call manorexia, where he thought he was just way too thin. He would eat like 5,000 calories a day. He'd go exercise at the gym twice a day. And then I was, eating less than 1,000 calories a day. I was training for my competitions. I was doing boot camps. I was teaching my classes. I was working out anywhere from 3 to 5 hours a day, and had been doing that consistently for a few years. When I started losing a lot of weight towards the end of our relationship, because I had this just like wrenching feeling in my gut that something wasn't right. When I'm depressed, I can't eat, so I wasn't eating, I wasn't sleeping, I was crying all the time, I wasn't drinking enough water, I wasn't taking care of myself. And after he left, I think I might have been around like under 110 pounds, which I haven't been since I was in college, just because I was so dehydrated and starved and sad. My sister came up and stayed with me, and she was like, oh my God, like she could see my muscle articulations, my tendons, all of my bones. And she was like, man, let's go get tacos. Like, we've got to feed you. And after that, after the relationship was over, I was pretty depressed. I didn't want to cook. I went back into like drinking all the time. I had been eating paleo for the past 4 years. I started eating gluten again. I was eating grains. I was eating dairy. I was, eating all of the things that I shouldn't be eating. And I ended up gaining more weight. The next guy I dated was like spitting image of my grandpa, also hypercritical. He had met me when I was super thin right after the relationship. And as the weight started packing on, he started making comments like, you're fat and you're gaining weight, and maybe you should exercise more, and blah blah, which made me feel even worse. So I kept focusing on, oh, I'm fat, I hate my body, I need to lose weight. And the more I thought about it, law of attraction just brought more of it to me, and I ended up gaining more and more weight. And it finally got to the point where I was probably like the second heaviest that I had ever been, and I absolutely hated my body, and I didn't know if I would ever be able to like get back to where I felt sort of comfortable in my body. But even though when I was thin, I still didn't really care for my body. But a couple years ago, in August of 2017, me and 5 of my girlfriends, we all decided to take a trip to the beach, South Padre Island, and we had a super healing time for all of us. Like, all 6 of us were like transformed in some way at that trip. I don't know, it was super weird. There was like a full moon, like the ocean, the sand, the salt, the tears, the sweat, everything just like was super cathartic and really healing. For me, it was seeing all of my friends who were extraordinarily thin in bathing suits, and me being like almost the biggest I'd ever been in my life. And I was like staring at myself in the mirror, just like crying that I hated my body. And I feel like that was a turning point for me. For whatever reason, I feel like for me, when I have to like hit rock bottom before I'm able to start climbing back out. And so it didn't get better immediately, but by November that year, I decided that I would start tracking my calories and start increasing them. So I started making sure I was eating 1,000 calories a day. By the time January came around a couple months later, I was up to 1,200, and I kept slowly increasing the amount of calories that I was eating. Then at the beginning of this year, I decided like I was really ready to like get myself back into shape. I've been focusing on eating more. I've been doing really gentle exercises like yoga and hiking, not going into my insane weightlifting and boot camps and competitive dancing that I had before, just being gentle. But I was ready to like, get back into the exercise game, because I felt like my mental health was healed enough and that my relationship with food was healed enough to like get back into exercising, but not overdoing it, like not exercising more than once a day. And I did good for the first few months of the year. I was really excited about my progress, but then I hit a wall in the middle of March this year. I was exhausted all of the time. I was malnourished. I had zero energy. I was bruising really easily, and I had no idea what was wrong with me. I knew I had like an overgrowth of candida. Like, I had gone back to eating paleo, but things I'd been able to eat before, like sweet potatoes and tomatoes and like onions and garlic and all of these things that I used to enjoy, were now causing me extreme discomfort in my stomach. And I was having like distended belly, and I was talking to my therapist about this. I was like, I don't know what to do. And she was like, oh, you should go see a naturopath. Happens to be one in South Austin. So I went and saw her in April, and I've been working with them for a couple of months now. April was probably like the first month, but then I had kind of a depressive episode last month in May, but I feel like I'm kind of getting back into it. I have lost the progress that I made at the beginning of the year, but I feel like I've gained more of a healing and understanding in my relationship with food. So I feel like that's a win. My energy levels still aren't back up to where they were, but I'm okay with that because I know that this is all part of the journey and it's part of the process. I have had a couple of 1 or 2 relapses in the last couple of years under high stress situations, but my therapist told me that it's perfectly normal to happen under high stress situations. I'm not really looking for the drastic fast fix American way right now. I did that for years where, you know, I could easily drop like 9 to 10 pounds in a month, which is, you know, ridiculous, especially the way that I did it by underfeeding myself and over exercising myself. My body's not where I want it, but I know that I'm on the journey to getting it there. And one of the things that I always remember is like, it takes 12 hours to make a Toyota, but it takes 6 months to make a Rolls Royce. So anything worth doing is going to take time. There's not like a fast fix things to it. So I'm just being okay with where I'm at, just staying present in my journey, trying to do the best I can for my health so that my body feels good. And I know that when I feel good in my body, then my body will start to change. When you love what you see in the mirror, what you see in the mirror will change. And if you yourself have gone through an eating disorder, like, please reach out for help. I know I was like in denial about my eating disorder for like 15 years, but in the back of my head, I always knew it wasn't right and I wasn't doing right by myself, by starving myself all of the time. And when you come to terms with like, hey, I have an issue, I have a problem, that's whenever the healing can start. Then you can start finding solutions. And I definitely recommend getting a therapist. I recommend like a support group, journaling. You can reach out to me and I'd be happy to like help you through anything. So if you found this video helpful, if you think it could help someone you know, if it would help you, please go ahead and give this video a like, go ahead and share it. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And thank you so much for joining me today. Anything worth doing takes time, so enjoy the journey. Love y'all. See you later.